Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of Denby Parish Council's Immunities Committee. Today is Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2025. Welcome to the meeting, everybody. The first item on our agenda this evening is apologies, to receive any apologies for absence, and we have apologies from Councillor Ranger and Councillor Stallard, and also from our head groundsman this evening. The second item is declarations of interest. Arising from this agenda, members and officers are invited to declare any relevant interests. Notwithstanding this item, members may subsequently declare an interest at any point during the meeting. Do we have any declarations this evening, members? Councillor Andreoli?
Item 10.3, Chair, I declare a PMP as the people involved are neighbours.
Thank you very much.
Do my usual withdrawal while you discuss it.
Thank you. Do we have any other declarations? Thank you very much. So we note your declaration, Councillor Andreoli. Item 3 is election of Vice Chair. Councillor Scobie is not present this evening. I think we all agreed that we were going to ask him to be our Vice Chair, so we'll defer that to the next meeting. Item 4 is minutes of the previous meeting. 4.1 is to receive and confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of October. And 4.2 is to receive and confirm the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of November 24. These have been circulated. For those of you that were present at the meeting of the 9th of October, which was Councillor Andreoli, Brown, Jones and myself, they have been circulated. Is everybody happy that they are a true record? Thank you. I will sign. And for the meeting of the 6th of November, the councillors that were present were Councillor Andreoli, Councillor Brown, Councillor Hall and Councillor West. They've been circulated. Are you happy that they are a true record? Thank you very much. I will sign. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Francis. Item 5 on the agenda is public participation, and the meeting will, if required, recess for no more than 15 minutes for questions and comments from members of the public on matters appertaining to this committee. We have several members of the public present this evening. Who would like to address council first? If you could give your name for the clerk, that would be appreciated. Who would like to speak first?
Aaron Stephen.
Thank you. Now's your opportunity to address council.
Basically, we're hoping to get your approval to hire the field behind the Memorial Hall to put on some local events. We're a new events company, but been in the events industry for quite a while, and we're looking to put on more community events that are sustainable for people with any income, low income, high income, and not get ripped off by major companies like Victoria's, Isle of Wight Festival and things like that. So we're looking to get your approval to be able to do that, really.
Okay,
So,
am I correct in that's on the agenda for this evening?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will be discussing that.
10.1.
Okay, 10.1, thank you. Okay,
thank you.
okay, thank you.
Keith Lambert.
Mr Lambert.
I wasn't expecting to address the council, but just to amplify our applications, we have several on your agenda. It's born mainly because of a revitalisation of the bowls club that we hope to instil. This is mainly because we've had a drop in membership since COVID. We're struggling to improve that membership. We're doing all sorts of initiatives to do so. Part of that is improving the clubs and other areas where we have visitors coming in as visiting clubs. And for instance, if we go and go to another club, then the usual process is not dissimilar to a cricket club perhaps, in that they will provide refreshments, they will be changing rooms. At the moment we don't have changing rooms. We have improved the club with our own funds to renovate the kitchen so that we can entertain and give various food and drinks. We are a little bit limited in that. Nearly every other club that we go to have a bar, we don't, so we find it difficult to attract other clubs. That is one of our main considerations in trying to gain revenue. Our big problem is that with the lower membership, we are not covering our running costs with our membership subscriptions, so we have to look at how we can generate cash. We're limited by various things, not least of all the least, but the CASC guidelines that we're registered with. That's government guidelines, I'm sure you know about those. So between those two documents themselves, we've regulated as to how we can improve our income. And this is really an initiative to try and boost that. We're also planning to run several initiatives in the parish this year, open days and such like. We've already run tables at various meetings such as the WI and Christmas and other parish initiatives. So we're trying to improve our, not standing, but improve our position in the parish so that we can generate some income from new members. We're capable of taking on a junior membership. We haven't any at the moment because it's a bit like we have a funny demographic. We have a lot of people coming in and passing on, if you'll excuse the expression. But similarly with the youngsters, we might trap them for a year or two around about late teens, but then when they start going to university, moving on to work, we lose them. So it's a very transient membership. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of background to the reasons for our requests.
Okay, thank you very much.
Frances Travaglini.
Mrs. Travaglini.
I'd like to raise two problems with the greenways. You know, the greenway system that goes through Great Wood. We've lived there 40 years now. Time seems to fly by. And they built our house. Our solicitor got a date for completion, so they built our house quickly. So I know where all the drains are, where all the cables are, and things like that. And the first thing that I want to raise is that sometimes the greenway gets blocked. Last June, the section between that was closest to Hambledon Road was completely closed, and it's a cycleway as well. So I understand that in June the grounds people worry about the birds, so I can understand, why they don't trim it back, but they could do it with secateurs. I looked after a section of greenway near my house, I think it was about 20 metres for 20 years, and I did it by myself with no outside help and no mechanical equipment. So I think, the groundsman surely can come in the summer and, and I raised this, I think, I've raised questions on the greenway, and especially about it being blocked in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024. So I think there needs to be, some solution to the problem after these years. The other problem is that there is with the greenways is that vehicles use them as a way to get through to properties. For instance, one family, I think they're in Little Corner, came across where the bridge and river is, right through their back fence in order to use the greenway footpath. And about 3 years ago, someone used a dumper truck on it, and the cables to the development run along that greenway path, and it's got no foundations. They virtually just laid the tar on top of some, I can't remember what it was, small
Scalpings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And therefore, if a heavy vehicle goes on, it cuts it damages the cable. And we had, it cut about 2/3 of the estate off, and we had 3 days of just scheduled power cuts. And it was, and the Southern Electric, it's not over, it's responsible for it, Southern Electric, still do the groundworks, and they were very good. But, you know, I don't see why we should be subjected to that. And every time I write to the parish council, they tell me we can put those posts in, you know, a drop post, I think you called it. But it's a cycleway, so you can't do it. You know, someone might hit the drop post. In fact, years and years ago, they did put a drop post in, and a boy hit it and ended up in QA with a head injury when he came off his bike. So I really don't think you can put them in. But there's got to be some way. And the other thing that worries me so much is that sometimes when I phone the parish council, the chief groundsman comes, or one of the staff, and we really worry about them. The people who use the path, the lorry drivers and the workers are very aggressive. You know, so that's a worry that they are. I feel it's unsafe. I'd never go near them. It always ends up in shouts and threats and things like that. And they just come back the next day and use the greenway with dumper trucks, lorries. They take the fence panels out and get access to their back gardens. So it's a worry, it really is. And also, they speed through, for instance, and elderly people and children use that path. It's a way to go to school. So that's a terrific worry that somebody will be run down. And the parish council itself used to have an access to the river area, you know, where the bridge is, from the main road. But they don't have that anymore. And I think it might be because it's a dangerous place to pull in and out, you know, with their vans and lorries. But I'm worried the way they're using the greenway as well. And I think sometimes contractors think, well, you know, they're driving along it, why shouldn't I? There's great big white lorries that they have, they do squeeze through in order to get access by the bridge, and I feel that's very worrying. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think I've mentioned everything. And, oh yes, there was one more thing. The cables, I did bring the cable here once, and the cables should be much deeper than the cables to the estate that are carrying the mains electricity. But they're shallow. And what people do is, for instance, I think 10 Great Mead at the moment's got a pole going down into the verge. And one resident put a pole into the verge and he cut off all our power, but he was terribly lucky. He just wasn't electrocuted because he was using he had a wooden handle on whatever he was hammering the stake down with. And I did bring, years ago, I brought the cable and showed how thin the sheathing is. Nowadays, you know, with modern cable, it obviously protects it more. But I feel it's a matter of time before somebody else is electrocuted. Especially, as I said, that the man that lives at number 10 has got a pole there. And I mean, you know, it's just so dangerous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, I've come to talk, and I was really sort of umming whether to come because having been a member and for a while chairing meetings, I can see it from both sides, and I think our 2 things that we want to raise tonight kind of illustrate a bit of the problem. I wanted to raise some over-excessive pruning around the village, and so I do absolutely appreciate that there is a balance to be struck. I think that recently there has been some excessive cutting back of greenery around the village. I've understood and I've read the communications that we've had to do a lot of tree works for safety, for disease, for insurance claims, but I think in that case there does then need to be a bit of balance with how we're pruning some of the brambles, bushes and shrubbery, because there's been a vast reduction in greenery around the village. The area of Parish Council Land next to my house is quite a good case in point because it's on the Greenway, and at the start of 2023 it was very aggressively cut back. It hadn't, and the previous grounds team, I understand, hadn't really kept it, and so it hadn't been maintained in a long time, but it was very aggressively cut back, and it's an area that's not on a verge, so it doesn't provide any issues with line of sight for motorists. It wasn't really encroaching on the Greenway for pedestrians, and there wasn't anything, as far as I'm aware, structurally there around the trees. That's why it needed to be. And at the time, it was such dramatic sort of cutback that my neighbours actually came and time sort of that we do need to keep things sort of tidy around the village, and I thought to myself, well, it'll grow back. However, last year, just as soon as it was starting to grow back, it was really aggressively cut back again, and I actually have some photos here from Google Maps of what it looked like before, and photos that I've taken of what it looks like now. Obviously it's winter, but you can see that even in the summer it's not what it used to be. Now I think everything is all about balance. Now we've had unavoidable works that you've had to do around the village, I completely understand that, but that means that birds and things are being displaced, wildlife's being displaced from the trees, they need somewhere else to go. So while that's happening, can we please not be so aggressive in our cutting back of the other areas when it's not needed? Obviously we have to keep the greenways clear, but can we prune rather than sort of completely cut back? And in terms of the kind of areas where there's not really any reason, is it possible to please think about whether we can just let it be? Can I show you some photos? Is that allowed?
Absolutely.
So this is the area I'm talking about here. This is what it used to look like. Obviously you see it's quite dense bushes and a tree in there. Yeah, that's what it used to look like, this area of the greenway. And this is what it looks like now. Now again, obviously it's winter, so there's no leaves on the trees, but you can see right down there, there's absolutely nothing. There's nothing left. It looks like a scrub land. And if I just show you as an example of what has been done to one of the areas that was quite a prominent sort of plant there previously, it's just been completely cut back like that. And it was starting to grow back, and then it was done again last year. So that's why I'd like to ask that for areas where there's not a particular reason, please can we have a more balanced and a more moderated approach to bringing back. If it needs to go as a massive decision, I'd ask if it could be added to a future agenda, and I'm happy to write in if that's helpful as well.
Chair, may I say a word? I came to the Parish Council in 2016, and there are 12 laws which control the maintenance of the greenway nationally. So, which actually belongs to the county council, doesn't it? You're just pruning it, and they own the footpath and the things either side, but the parish council is looking after it, and it's totally prescribed how you're supposed to maintain it. I've been, pointed that out to the parish
Thank
council.
you. Yes, the footpath itself through the greenways belongs to Hampshire, but either side belongs to the parish council.
Okay. I think I had a letter showing that the county council gave permission to the thing, but they don't actually own it. Parish council.
I would have to check back through the archives, but as far as I know,
Most of them we own.
Yeah, we do. Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have anything else that they wish to address council with regards? Okay, thank you. In which case,
Could I be recused, please?
sorry?
Could I be recused? I'd like to leave the meeting.
Yes, of course, of course. Members of the public may leave at any point.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
If members are agreed, I will change the order of the agenda, and we'll deal with Mr. Stephen? Stephen, sorry. First, 10.1. Thank you. And then we'll deal with the bowling club issues, if members are agreed. Okay, thank you. So 10.1. Have I changed the number? Oh no, 10.1. Yeah, Heathfield. To consider a booking request in relation to Heathfield for a food festival.
Yes, food festival.
Sorry,
food
it's
festival community event.
public session is closed.
Sorry.
This is now
Sorry.
for councillors to discuss. So everyone has had the information that you sent in circulated to them. So we have the booking form, and so the event is a food festival in the field behind the War Memorial Hall. So it's actually called Heathfield. And the date that the event is to be held is the 14th, 21st or 28th of June. And the start time for the event would be 11 a.m, but you would need to be on site for 7 a.m. And end of the event would be 8 p.m, because you need to stay a little later to clear up any mess. It's a community event, a food festival, and it's a public event. A donation will be given to a chosen charity. Are tickets being sold to the event? No. How many people are expected to attend? 1,000. There will be event insurance. Do you need access to any locked gates? There is one gate at the side that is kept locked, which is a field gate, and you would need access to that at 7 AM. You plan to sell alcohol and play music, and you will obtain a TENS temporary event notice prior to the event. Consideration from members. I would just like to point out that the Parish Council will be holding our summer festival on the 21st of June. So there's a bit of a clash there. So we will also be providing food and drinks, and that's a free event for the village that we've been holding since 2017. So that's held every year. Thoughts from members? Councillor West.
Sorry, my only question would be, look, obviously you hold music in the council behind it, so do you need to go to the environment or have to make a little for the noise pollution basically? Well, equipment pollution, not saying what, but in order to set them up, is there some sort of rule you've got to follow on that?
It has to go through Winchester Council to get an entertainment licence. So because there's music being played, it's live music, you have to have a licence through the main council, which I believe is Winchester Council.
It's Winchester City Council Licensing Committee, and all applications go through the licensing team, and the committee members, which I am a member of, are made aware of any event that comes forward like this. That if any councillor has any concerns, they may raise it with the officers.
I'm more concerned with the fact that if it's agreed, you don't want people coming and making complaints to you about something we've agreed to do with the noise, that's all.
Do you have a interest? No. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking with the clerk whether or not I actually needed to declare an interest and then not take part in the discussion because I am on the licensing committee, but I have no personal interest. I don't know you. I'm not benefiting financially from this at all, so clerk says no, I don't need to declare an interest. Councillor Berry.
What about marshalling and making sure there's no underage drinking?
Sorry, Councillor Berry, all questions need to come through chair as opposed to two members of the public.
Yeah. As I said, what about marshalling and making sure no one's underage drinking?
All of that is part of the temporary event notice permission. Any further questions? Councillor Brown?
With a hopeful number of 1,000 people, is security something that would need to be in place as well? Does that come under a TENS licence?
I don't believe it does. I will pose that question to the member of the public.
Security will be on site because any event that we do that has alcohol, we will always have security and first aid team on site for the duration of the event.
Thank you. Councillor Andrioli?
Yeah, sorry, what I was going to ask you, I just realised it on the floor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
Just a question to the member of the public again, is that they are aware that there are new toilets, and if they wish toilets, they would need to speak to War Memorial Hall.
Or hire them.
Or hire.
We would use Beaver Hire. We have contacts down there that we would use for all our events anyway to make sure there's adequate toilets for people.
Thank you. Councillor West?
The only one I was just saying, I have no issue with it. But could you avoid, we ask them to avoid the 21st? That doesn't
100% we wouldn't do it on that date anyway. If that was your summer show, then it wouldn't warrant doing it because the whole idea is for it to be a community events where everyone can turn up.
Okay, thank you. Fees for staff. Are you aware that we actually charge for a member of our staff to be in attendance because we don't hand out keys, and if you needed access to the gate, we would need a member of staff to attend for the gate to be unlocked and locked again?
That would be absolutely fine.
Okay.
We would expect to be paying something towards them sort of things anyway.
Yes,
Okay.
they can do it all from the front.
And I understand from a safety aspect for events that we've held, or people have held previously, because of the number of people that you're having there, although there is free access from the front, which you'll be aware of, and actually by the time you have this, we may well have removed the barriers and had a different barrier in there. You will need access from the side and for that to be available to be opened, so that should there be an issue at the front, people can egress the site from the rear. Okay. So Clark is just writing a list of recommended conditions for us should council be minded to approve. So should council be minded to approve, we would require there to be security. We would require there to be first aid, toilet facilities, obviously the Thames licence, the fees for the member of staff to attend for opening of the gate. We would require litter picking. There are to be no fires and no fireworks, and any signage put up for the event would need to be removed post-event.
Insurance.
Oh, and we also would need to see a copy of your public liability insurance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anything else?
Yeah. Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Francis will write to you with all of these conditions anyway. Councillor West.
Well, I was going to say, providing all them conditions are met, I propose we accept.
Seconded by Councillor Brown. Can I have a show of hands please? All those agree? That's unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So we will now move on to just looking for the bowling club. Changes to lease 10 part 9.1.
9.1.
Yes. Thank you very much. We will now move on to 9.1, which is changes to the lease terms. To consider a request from Denby Bowling Club for an alteration to the terms of the lease to the bowling club. To consider and determine action. I will just find that on my paperwork. So Mr Lambert addressed us earlier and advised about the drop in membership and the fact that they're struggling to improve membership numbers and also the facilities. They would like to apply for grants and be more attractive to other clubs. They would like to provide refreshments. They have renovated the kitchens, but they have no changing rooms at the moment. They would like to provide a bar. They're not covering their running costs currently, and they are limited by the lease. They have run open days, and with the WI and at Christmas, they would like to improve their presence in the parish. They have juniors, but membership is somewhat transient. Councillor Brown.
Just to clarify, a lot of these points came up through the meeting that Councillor Jones and I had with the bowling club, and there was things brought up at that meeting, and we asked for them to write formally to us, because obviously we can't agree anything as two members of a working party. This is why they've come in this format now. One of the stumbling blocks at the time has always been the stumbling block, has been the peppercorn rent, which I am very mindful of, that there is no mention of a change to that peppercorn rent. Just so that we can bear that in mind with our decisions.
Just for background for the committee, I have a substantial amount of correspondence over various years with the bowling club with regards to the peppercorn rent. Some years ago, when I first became chair, we tried to make everything equal across all of the clubs that we have across the village, and to that end we introduced a peppercorn, well, not a peppercorn, but a very basic fee which we charge all of the clubs. Everybody else agreed. We couldn't come to an agreement with the bowling club at the time, so that is the current situation. Councillor Brown? Do not know why that.
Can I just on the defence of the bowling club? a lot of the people who were in charge of the bowling club, I think I can say, are different people, are more amenable to suggestions that were put forward. There was, in our meeting, it was a lot happier meeting, I would like to say. Hopefully Councillor Jones will agree with me that it was a lot more amenable than we had been, the meetings we had before, shall I say.
Thank you, that's very positive. Councillor Jones and then Councillor West.
Yeah, just to endorse that, obviously it's the first time we're actually being invited to a bowling club as well, to see what's going on, and there's no doubt it could be a really substantial addition to the community. It was great to watch it. Certainly the 50% rule is a very difficult one to apply. You have so many people who live just on the outskirts of that. It would be great to see it expanded the way they're talking about.
Councillor West.
So yeah, while I appreciate the Pepperhall rent is an outstanding issue, it's not part of this issue, is it? The issue we've got here is discussed just about the lease requirements, what it remains in the lease. And my question is, why would we think about restricting to 50% the membership had to come within Denmead? Is that then restricting their chance to increase their earnings, which gives us more leverage to try and get the rent increased if we needed to, or mind to at the time?
Yeah, I did ask that question when I first started looking at this, and I actually went to the people that signed the lease originally. And the concept behind that was the fact that it's parish land, and since the parish isn't getting anything back from it, it should be parishioners that benefit from the provision of the club, and because they're not being charged anything. So it should be for the benefit of the people of Denmead, not from everybody that's outside of Denmead. That was how it was explained to me at the time.
Well,
Sorry.
I understand that if you've got a club that's at full capacity, and then so you'll sort of then have it stopping people from the parish to join. But if you've got a club that's only running at, and I don't know, I'm just using example, 50% capacity, then surely the idea was to fill up the 50% with whatever means necessary to become viable.
Councillor Andrioli and then Councillor Jones.
Yeah. A lot of what's in here I don't particularly have a problem with, other than item 2 under grounds maintenance, which it says the parish council maintain all external hedging except as outlined below in item 3. The Bowls Club have maintained their hedge both sides over the years by, I believe, getting in contractors to do it.
Sorry, which document are you looking at? Because I'm looking at the first one, which is...
No, I'm looking at the second one, sorry, which is...
is that not separate?
Yeah, it's a separate.
That's a separate...
Grounds maintenance is 9.4.
Yeah. We're on 9.1 at the moment.
Well, I'm reading the one where they're asking for solar panels and changing rooms.
Well, that's 9.2 and 9.3.
So we're on 9.1 at the moment,
Okay, sorry. In which case, I'll
which is
come
the
back.
14th of November document, which is specifically relating just to the lease.
Okay, that's...
It's the previous document.
yeah,
I'll
just
show
trying to get back to it.
Councillor Jones was Councillor Andrews searching.
Partly in connection with Councillor West's comment, in our previous discussions we did broach flexibility in terms of the 50%, and we suggested that we could revoke that clause completely if they increased the membership for the non-members by £5, which would then pay the rents. That was one of our suggestions as the way forward, but we were told that was not a possibility. I'm sure that the current committee members would probably look at it differently, whether that meant £5 or whatever, but I'm sure they would view it quite differently how we made that approach.
I do recall the suggestion previously was that for non-members they pay an additional £5, and that would pay the increase for the rent to match everybody else's, the basic ground rent, which I think is about £300 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But we were advised at the time that that was not agreeable to the bowling club. Councillor Andreoli, did you find?
No, it was the other item.
Okay.
The other items.
So there are two clauses, 5.1.5, which is if less than 50% of the members of Denmead Bowling Club shall have their principal private residence within the parish boundary. So this is basically the demise of the agreement. If and whenever during the said term there are less than 50% of members of the Denmead Bowling Club with their private residence within the parish boundary. So when we had the initial conversation back in I think the main conversation was 2019, the list received from the bowling club was that their membership was less than 50% residents of Denmead, which our solicitor advised that meant that the lease was in demise, but bowling club disagreed. And we didn't pursue it any further at that point. The other clause is 8.2, which is the user shall not at any time to use the premises, the building or any part thereof, the provision, supply, sale or distribution of intoxicating liquor. I'm not sure why that was put in at all. I think it's very much part of most clubs that you go there to enjoy, and that's part of the offering. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I think 8.2 is a bit of an old-fashioned way of looking at a clubhouse, in that effectively coffee is an intoxicating liquor.
Well, 8.5 is not to use the premises for any illegal or immoral act or purpose, which I've not seen that in the least for a very long time.
I would be personally wouldn't have an issue with 8.2 being changed to allow them to serve alcohol, even if that comes down to having a glass of wine that is supplied by the home team for the away team, or a beer or whatever. It's not that they're intending on setting a public house up and that they're not running a club every day of the week or anything. It is literally, or the idea of it is to, as has been stated, to aid other clubs coming and to make it more of a social place, as well as trying to increase membership.
So I'm going to make a proposal that the lease working party go back to the bowling club and say that we are not averse at all to amending the lease agreement on the proviso that we can discuss the payment of the base rent that everybody else pays. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor West. Can I have a show of hands? That's unanimous. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 9.2, which is the solar panels. To consider a request from Denmead Bowling Club to install solar panels at the bowling club. Councillor Andreoli, did you have a query on this one?
More with my planning hat on, I'm saying I wouldn't have a problem with them doing this, though I think they should consult with Winchester Planning to make sure to ascertain whether or not they need planning permission, because there's different rules for sort of non-private buildings, I think is one way of putting it. So I personally don't have a problem with them doing it, but they may run foul of planning rules if they don't check.
And can I also ask the lease working party to advise the bowling club that there are all sorts of grants that they can apply for solar panels, which would assist with funding. Councillor Brown.
If you'd come to me before you spoke, all those points have been discussed, and the planning side of things has been discussed with the bowling club, with advice on that it may need planning permission, and that there are plenty of places for grants, and green energy at the moment is a thing that everyone is pushing.
Councillor Andreoli, did you wish to make a proposal?
This is just about solar panels.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I propose that the parish council would have no objection to them putting solar panels in. It's the whole district is supposed to be trying to reduce the energy consumption, so yeah. I recommend they also put battery storage in, not just solar panels.
Councillor Brown?
I'll second the proposal.
So that's proposed by Councillor Andreoli, seconded by Councillor Brown. Can I have a show of hands, please? That's also unanimous. Thank you. So we'll move on to 9.3, which is the changing rooms. To consider a request from Demi Bowling Club to install a timber modular building as a changing room for visitors. Councillor Brown.
This, if you're stood with your back to the clubhouse looking at the bowling greens, is proposed to be on the right-hand side, along the hedgerow, end on effectively, coming down towards the pavilion, if that makes sense. There is an area of green, not the bowling green, but there is an area of grass along the side there that would be able to take such a building.
Councillor Brown.
I also don't have an issue with that. I think it is another thing that is a benefit to the club. It was, as again mentioned when we had the meeting before.
Will certainly help them attract away teams to come and play. So was that a proposal that you have?
Sorry, can I just ask you to show me where?
You certainly can. Along this side.
Right.
Francis.
The only thing I would say is the oak tree there is a TPO oak tree which has a 25-metre root protection area, so you cannot put a building within 25 metres of it if it's going to press the ground and potentially damage the roots.
Councillor Brown.
I would have thought something like a modular building would be on posts which could be made to go round. It would need probably.
Councillor Andreoli and then Francis.
Another roof for them to put solar panels on, but yes, I'm also aware that there's water pipes running along that section. I'm sure they're aware of that as well, because there's somewhere along there is where the water feed comes in, and they have their meter, and of course it goes off from there to the tennis court. So there's the tree to consider, and also the water situation. But
okay, with regards to the tree, I would say that have we had a proposal? No. So I would propose. Sorry, Councillor Brown, you proposed. So can I make an amendment to the proposal that we have no objection, provided they consult Winchester City Council tree officers to get advice and make sure that the tree is not damaged in any way. Can we take a vote on my amendment, please? All those in favour? Thank you. And now a vote on the original. All in favour? Thank you. So we now move on to item 9.4, which is the grounds maintenance. To consider a request from Demi Bowling Club for a letter of understanding regarding the maintenance of the hedge around the bowling club. Councillor Brown.
After speaking about this with the Bowls Club, I spoke to our head groundsman, who informed me that because the hedge is at such a height, we would have to get specialist contractors in to work at the height that it is at the moment. Especially if you stand with your back to the pavilion, look at the bowling green, the left-hand end of the hedge is a lot higher than it steps down slightly. I don't think I can show you on. No, it won't be anywhere close enough to show you on Google Earth. But because of that height, the head groundsman said we would have to get someone in to do it anyway.
Councillor West.
I don't understand why we needed someone in when we hired cherry pickers for various things. We wouldn't just sort of cherry picker. there's a cost to that which needs to be passed on, appreciate that, but more than needed for
I can't answer that, I'm afraid. Councillor Andreoli?
Yeah, it's just the point I was about to make earlier, but the fact that item 2 under it says that the parish council will maintain all the external hedging, and all the way along the Bowls Club has been responsible for maintaining their hedge on both sides, and every so often got contractors in to deal with it. This is an additional cost to the parish council, for which at the moment we don't get anything. So I would be, we've just been informed as well that the head groundsman says that our staff couldn't do it as it stands without, so at the very least we would need to reduce the height to the point where our ground staff could do it, which may not be acceptable to the Bowls Club. But we are, in agreeing to that, we are committing the council to significant extra costs for which there is at the moment no income. So I would be against it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
There is a reason for the height being hedge being at that height, and the reason is right. It's at the end of the skate park, and if the hedge was dropped down to the height of the rest of it, as far as I remember from our conversation, the youths that use the skate park tend to be slightly abusive to members of the bowling club, because when they're on the top of the skate park they can see straight into the bowling club. That
Okay, thank you.
was that correct? Yeah.
Councillor Andreoli?
The other reason it's that high is it discourages what they could things being thrown over, because they used to keep finding rubbish and including broken glass on the bowl screen in the past, which I know is why the hedge was allowed to grow as tall as it is.
Councillor Jones?
Perhaps that item can be tagged onto the this working party. We have a meeting, and then we can hopefully come back with a proposal, having discussed all the various points.
And in the meantime, we could speak with the head groundsman and find out a better understanding of exactly what the issues are in terms of either reducing the height or what height we would be able to maintain it at should we reach that decision. Councillor Brown?
Could we also get the head groundsman to do a costing as to how much that is likely to cost to maintain that hedgerow? Because then before we go and have the meeting, because then it gives us an idea of what costs are.
Okay, so the proposal is that we get further costings and speak with the head groundsman to understand what the issues are, and we refer that information back to the lease working party for them to go and have a further conversation with the bowling club. Are you seconding, Councillor Brown? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Can I have a show of hands then, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Andreoli?
That which we have discussed and agreed on suggests to me that this is effectively comes down to a new lease as opposed to a modification of the current one.
We can ask our solicitor about that. I think that would probably be a good idea as to whether or not that constitutes a new lease or whether it can be a memorandum of understanding or an addendum to the lease. Do you have a seconder for that proposal? Sorry, Councillor Brown.
I was just going to say, if we are to go that route, that needs to be done also before we have another meeting.
Yeah. So I will second your proposal that we refer that to our solicitor for advice on whether it's an amendment, addendum, memorandum of understanding or new lease. Can have show of hands all those agree, please. That's also unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we'd like to depart now, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Can I just clarify a couple of points? I wasn't in the club when you had your previous meetings that you referred to, but I've heard discussions about it, and I can understand where you're coming from. I think what we'd like to bring to you is that we have, if you like, very strongly put in place, and I've been in legal departments for many years. My view on a lease or a contract is that it is a an understanding between two parties who both want something from it. It's not a case of being adversarial and beating each other over the head with the contract. I know a lot of people think of it that way. Regarding the subscriptions increasing for that amount of money, whatever it is, I can understand why they were against that, because a lot of it would be put upon people who are perhaps social members, just coming on for the social aspects of it, and are probably least able to afford it. So we would tend to lean away from that. We're very cognizant of the CAS guidelines that says that we cannot increase our members' subscriptions to decrease membership, to push members away. And by increasing membership, subscriptions each year, we are in danger of that. That plus the restrictions on the areas that we can cover makes it even more difficult. But what we're trying to do is to I can give you figures in that being a treasurer, I know that our subscription this year has been put up and it's £160 for a full member. That is very similar to most of the clubs in the area in basic subscriptions, but they all have additional income. The actual running costs require that our subscriptions are £200 a year. So we need to get £40 per member somewhere else, and that's what we're trying to achieve by increasing the income without changing the club too much and making it Denmead Bowling Club, not Denmead and Cloud Plain and Hambledon and all the rest of it. So the intentions are good. Just in terms of, I'm not adverse to paying for anything that we should rightly pay for. I think we had a few, bearing in mind our demographic is a bit old and crotchety. I can understand the opposition you had previously. But what we're trying to do is, for instance, with the hedging, is I noticed in your parish magazine that you had a new chipper, lovely, but why not make use of it? Why are we paying outside contractors to do what you could do? And obviously there's a cost to that, and we're not adverse to that. If we pay somebody else, why should we pay you? So it's a meeting of minds rather than you pay this, we'll pay that.
And I'm sure the Lease Working Party will be more than happy to discuss all of those things and bring that back in proposal to council.
I must say I'm very impressed with the breadth of the conversations and discussions, and I suppose the appreciation of what we're trying to do. And thank you very much for it.
You're most welcome. Have a nice evening.
Hope you don't have too long in the evening.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
So we will go back to item 6 on the agenda, which is matters arising and outstanding matters from previous minutes. We have the report from Francis. There is one item that we do need to discuss, which is the tractor. The Kubota tractor is requiring repair, and Sam is absolutely desperate to have this tractor back. It's the time of year when they really need it. And we have a quote for £2,757.91, which includes VAT. That is to replace and rebuild the axle case, the assembly gear bevel, the rebuild kit, greasing the cartridge, and labour, delivery and collection of the tractor.
It's cheaper than Wildwood.
And it is cheaper than Wildwood, I'm advised. Councillor Brown.
At our last meeting, we asked to find out what the life expectancy of this tractor was before we spent any money on it. That was the last resolution of this committee. The reason was being, obviously the price was reduced, but we didn't want to go and spend a load of money on a tractor that was at end of life. should I say, it should have been.
Francis is just checking for us.
Sure it was at the last meeting we discussed it.
Yeah, it was, if we could
No,
get a
it was
cheaper quote.
resolved unanimously, the existing quote would be accepted unless a second cheaper quote could be obtained and provided that the equipment is not end of life. So we have the cheaper quote, and therefore I would say that Sam has said that it is not end of life, because otherwise he wouldn't have asked for a second quote.
Can we approve it subject to it being?
Councillor Brown?
I think that part got overlooked personally. I'm quite happy to get it repaired if we need this to be done, but we do need to look at things as to whether they have an onward use.
Okay, so if we go ahead with this repair and then ask Sam to do a report for us on when or lifespan of the tractor, so that we can then consider at the next meeting whether or not we need to start potentially looking for alternatives or replacements. Councillor Andrioli.
I would suggest that we agree to do this repair and ask the firm doing the repair whether they think the tractor is worth keeping. I mean, they're the ones doing the repair. They're the engineers, if you like, who would have a better idea than Sam, I suspect.
Councillor Brown.
It's a bit of a backward way of doing something, to ask someone who's just put £2,500 worth of money into something to say, do you think it's worth keeping? And then they'll say, yeah, of course it is. We can only spend another £10,000 on it to keep it back up together. Yeah. It's asking someone, I can understand the end of life bit, that's fine, but they have a vested interest in a way to say, yeah, it's fine. And then the next £2,500 down the road, we're in for. I personally would like us to see that tractor goes away with the intention of getting it repaired, but it's looked at before it's repaired to see if it's worth spending that money on. And if it's not, we then have to find a tractor, whether we hire one for a short period of time or...
I didn't think this one was this old, that old. Councillor Andrioli.
Sadly, it isn't necessarily a matter of age, it's a matter of usage.
So Councillor Brown has proposed that we allow them to come and collect it, take it away and consider whether it is actually worth repairing prior to them actually undertaking the work. But if they say yes, are we agreed that we can get the work done?
Yeah. I second it.
Is that check? If it's a provider, it's already written.
It says to collect delivery and collection of the tractor.
Yeah, I think it is already with them because
Okay.
they've had
Right.
to inspect it to do
Okay.
this.
So it's been seconded. Can I have a show of hands then, please? Thank you very much.
You okay? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 7 is the head groundsman's report. To receive a status report from the head groundsman. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find.
No, I don't.
I don't think we've actually got a report from the head groundsman. Oh,
No,
I have
it wasn't
one here.
circulated.
Sorry, it
actually.
wasn't circulated. Tree cutting. Tree works have started to remove ash trees where they have dieback. The ash in Ashling Road car park has been removed. Hedge cutting is coming to an end. Most areas complete. I think we're glad to hear that. Playground repairs. The bark has been ordered, and I believe that's already been put out. Looking at the flower beds around the village, any excess has been put on the flower beds. They look good. The ditch at the boundary at the burial ground has been cleared and the culvert is now visible. 1,900 bulbs have been planted around the village, some put in borders at Ashling car park, and 5 apple trees have been planted at Roman Green to replace removed goat willows. Thank you, Sam. We note your report. Item 8, Ashling Park, Ashling Pavilion, to ratify a decision made to accept the quote from MJM Plumbing to carry out repair works to the heating at the pavilion for the benefit of the nursery. So we had a letter in from the nursery to advise that the rooms were very cold and that thermostats, it was recommended thermostats were fitted, so that's been done. So that was at a cost of £850 plus VAT. Councillor Brown?
I propose we agree the cost, it's already been done.
Show of hands then, please. That's unanimous, thank you. 8.2, use of the hall for an AGM, to consider a request to hire the hall on a Thursday evening, March, to hold an AGM. Sorry, I'm just looking for that document.
Yeah, I don't think you have a copy of it.
Okay. So we have the tennis club wish to hold their annual general meeting, and obviously since they're located in Ashling Park, the pavilion is an obvious place for them to hold it. They would like to hold it on the 20th of March from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. It is a private event, it's not to raise money, it's their annual general meeting. They're anticipating approximately 40 people. The tennis club is a registered lawn tennis association venue, and therefore they have public liability insurance. Will alcohol be consumed? Yes, they will have cheese and wine, but it's a closed event for a club. So, is that Gates?
Or somebody will have to open the pavilion for me.
Ah, yes. Councillor Brown.
I have no issue with the pavilion being used for an event in an evening, as long as the appropriate staffing is sorted.
Okay, so I would suggest we need to advise the daycare that they will need to clear the hall of their all the things that they use for the facilities, and also the kitchen, because obviously they will need to be using the kitchen. And we will also need to make them aware of the staff costs, because we will need somebody to go and unlock and lock the pavilion. Councillor West.
Are we going to get the daycare people come out the following day and say they want to deep clean in the kitchen now that other people use it for the children? They've done that just before, no?
They do have their own cleaning equipment, and we do allow other users to use the hall. But yeah. Councillor Brown and then Councillor Andreoli.
It is a sports pavilion at the end of the day. It is open for
it is
hire.
available for hire, absolutely. Councillor Andreoli.
2 points. One, we bought the daycare a steam cleaner for that very purpose. And 2, I second the proposal that we allow this event to go ahead.
Thank you. So we have a proposal and that's been seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 9.5, projects update from the tennis club. To note the update from the tennis club regarding the upgrading of their floodlights and extending the decking. So that was as reported at the last meeting, and they have said that they've upgraded their floodlights because their bulbs were no longer available, and they have extended their composite decking to enable much better area for use. So we note that. We have covered 10.1, so we move on to 10.2, Badgers Run. To consider the report received from the amenities clerk regarding the renewal of a licence to cultivate, to consider and determine action. So we have the report. The resident has completed the renewal application form and drawn on the plan the area. The land is owned by Bellway Homes, according to the title deeds. It was initially included in an agreement between Bellway and Winchester and Denham Parish Council on the 14th of May 1999. The agreement refers to the land as the open space, but then continues, which expression shall include any subsequent variation of the open space which is agreed in writing between the developer and council. However, we have been unable to find a variation signed by the parties. The plan attached to the transfer, which was dated the 26th of January 2005, does not include the area known as Badgers Run, but was signed by the then chairman and the clerk as being correct. Land registry is correct and in accordance with the transfer dated January 2005, and therefore the Badgers Run remained with the developer and it was not passed to Parish Council. And therefore we cannot grant the resident a licence to cultivate, so we will have to advise them that they will need to contact Bellway Homes. Councillor Brown.
Before we point out, don't know if I want to say it in open session.
Are you suggesting that we should contact Bellway Homes to establish their ownership?
Well, I'd like, before we go and point out to the public that we do not own that piece of land and someone puts an application in to purchase that piece of land, we should be looking into getting that the document signed so that it does become our piece of land if we are so minded. We've maintained it.
It's not the first piece of land that this has happened.
I have sent an email in this week about
Yeah.
the items of land around the village.
So are you proposing that we should ask the clerk to contact Bellway Homes to ask about the transfer of the land?
I think we should, yeah.
I'll say.
Thank you. Can I have a show of hands then, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. 10.3, land at the meadow. Councillor Andrioli is leaving the room. So to consider the response received to the offer of a licence to cultivate, to consider and determine action. So Francis wrote back to the resident and advised that the Parish Council did not wish to sell the piece of land, and the resident has come back and said, as a member of the community, my faith in the Parish Council is dwindling. I have provided a signed letter showing the thoughts of the residents, yet this was ignored. Can I have a response as soon as possible? If the date can't be any sooner, then I will speak directly with my MP. The lack of support and understanding of the community is clear, which leads me to believe the current Parish Council is misrepresenting the community for their own gain. Denmead used to be a very sought after village to live in, and speaking to friends and family, it is turning into another part of Waterlooville. The feedback I get is largely due to decisions made by the Parish Council. My family and I have even considered moving out of the village due to how much it has changed. Kind regards. Councillor Brown.
Their concerns weren't ignored, which is what they state in their letter. We did look at their application to purchase the land and refused it. We're not forced to sell pieces of land. And just because they got 5 or 6 of their neighbours to sign a letter doesn't constitute the whole village, does it?
Thank you. Any further comment? Francis.
I was just going to remind the committee that the reason this arose is the siting of the wheelie bins that are currently sited on our land without consent.
Councillor Brown.
And they still are.
And they still are. And he doesn't want a licence of that area of land.
As I understand it from the plan, was that the plan that I saw that the line goes directly from the line of the house straight forward to the road?
No, it's...
It steps by the
I know
way
it
the
so
end of the
well
house
now.
is.
So that's the house, and basically the boundary starts at the front of his house there, so that bit of land is ours. He has a side gate here, that's his gate, a pathway and a gate, and he's keeping his bins there on our land.
And we've asked for the bins to be removed.
And he's refused. Or rather, he will remove them and then put them back the next day. We have asked him if he wants a licence of that bit of land and use. That was the response we got.
So the resident does not wish a licence to cultivate to enable use of that area of land. Okay, thank you.
Either the main area or just the bit the bins are on.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Fence.
I personally, for where the bins are, I don't really have problems to where they are. It's not really good. Only in the fact that he's not put anything down underneath the bins, they are sat on the ground. The only alternative is that we fence it off and restrict the access to that land. But then by doing that, we then restrict the access to our grounds team as well, because we'd have to put a gate in there, a locked gate, which is high enough that someone's not going to climb over. We can't attach it to his house.
It was my understanding that where we have hedges, so we've got all of this along Forest Road, Southwark Road, that we were planting behind the hedges. So that's why a lot of areas have been cleared, because the plan is the head groundsman is going to plant behind with shrubs that are low maintenance, so it's greenery, but it will still be able to, they'll still be able to get in there and maintain. Can I suggest that we speak with Sam about this and see what his plans are for the area? Councillor Brown?
The only issue with planting anything in there or putting anything, we couldn't put trees in there because they're too close to the house. So we're limited on what we can actually
I think
put
Sam
in
was
there.
talking about the coloured dogwood stems, so you've got vibrant colours during the winter and greenery during the summer. Councillor Berry? Yes. Things like midwinter fire and, yeah. Councillor West?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's just going to inflame the situation more. I think they go in and they get damaged and ruined, and there'd be no proof it was even done if they did it. I think it'd be a waste of my time. I think I agree, bins, I don't think it's really an issue, but not showing the land, they don't want to go by land.
Councillor Brown?
The only alternative we could do is put an E-rail in there. An E-rail, not a low E-rail, but an E-rail at a sensible height, which would then mean the bins couldn't be lifted, or you would struggle to lift the bins over it.
Okay, thank you. Francis?
My understanding at the moment is that the only issue that the grounds team have with the bins is that they have to then move them to cut the grass.
Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I think our problem is that whatever we do to resolve this, in so much as saying they can't keep it there, makes it look incredibly petty and inflames the situation and doesn't solve it, because undoubtedly the tenant will potentially just take the option to leave them there, whatever we do, and then what action we take. I do tend to agree with Councillors Brown and West that this is a battle that I don't think it's worth fighting. And I think all we have to do is ask them to move the bins when we're cutting the grass.
Okay. Councillor Brown?
I would say that we inform them that the bins shouldn't be there, that we are not accepting the fact that they are leaving them there, but the fact that they will leave them there. So we're not giving them permission, we're telling them that they shouldn't be there. But as Francis says, they're going to move them and then put them back as soon as we're gone again. So.
Okay, the other issue is not just the bins. I've seen teams on Forest Road cutting the trees down. I'd like to request that the team attend the land next to 22 The Meadow to remove the trees, just as they've done on Forest Road. Can this be organised, please? Two main reasons for this request are: firstly, the leaves from the trees are blocking my guttering and garden, and secondly, parking is busy in the road and everyone avoids parking under the trees due to the mess they make.
I think it's two separate issues, isn't it? I think we deal with the bins.
It's
on
all
one
in the
side.
same letter.
Yeah, but we deal with the bins first and then.
Okay. He has explained he is not going to remove them as no one in the community has a problem in their location. Given it is the parish council land, the community own it as a whole.
Oh, that part of
Councillor Brown.
I would propose that we get Sam to look into the area, into either putting an E-rail across that part. The next part down has got a hedgerow along it anyway, and also to look at the trees to see if any work needs to be done on them.
Okay, so can I just read through the letter and we'll do a response to each of the paragraphs. The reasons explain not to sell the land do not align with community feelings. Planning permission was granted to build a large number of properties across their need, as well as the development of councillors' properties approved. I am looking to build on the land and make my garden bigger and maintain it. I will continue to request the land to be sold and question the reasons, given the signed document from residents explaining they are happy for the land to be sold. I believe that we have said previously that it's our responsibility to maintain all of the areas of amenity land across the village, and we generally do not sell parcels of land. Are we happy as that as a response? That's unanimous. The next paragraph, with regards to the bins, I've explained I'm not going to remove them as no one in the community has a problem with their location. Given it is parish council land, the community own it as a whole. We agreed that we're not doing anything with the bins at this point. We will ask Sam. Sorry, Councillor Brown?
No, we're telling him that we are not accepting that the bins are to be left there.
Right, okay.
The bins, we're not intending to do anything about it, but if we say, yes, it's fine to leave the bins, I think Francis will say we're basically telling him that he has a legal right.
Yeah.
So we tell him that we are not accepting that the bins that are being there, but we're just...
We reserve the right to ask you to remove them at any stage in the future.
Yeah.
And the ground staff can move them as they require. You okay with that?
I think we should actually, I know he won't do it, but I think we should actually ask him to remove them, and I think we should write to him annually to ask him to remove them.
Yeah.
Just to stop him claiming any rights.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
my thing, yeah.
But if you ask them to remove them and they fail, what action, to take no action, is accepted
But the
anyway?
staff will be removing them because they will need access to maintain the area, so they will be removed periodically. All agreed? Yeah, that's unanimous, thank you. I've explained the reasons why I'm not willing to go ahead with the right to cultivate, and this is due to the responsibility lies with the owner to maintain the land. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I've seen teams on Forest Road cutting the trees down. I'd like to request the team attend the land next to 22 The Meadow to remove the trees, just as they have done on Forest Road. Can this be organised, please? The main reasons for this are the leaves from the trees are blocking my guttering and garden drainage, and secondly, parking is busy in the road because everyone avoids parking under the trees due to the mess they make. I think we have a tree policy that says that we only remove trees under specific circumstances, i.e. they are diseased or dangerous, and therefore we won't be removing the trees. All agreed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Are you okay with that, Francis? Thank you. Could you ask Councillor Andrioli to return
Get
to
the ice off of him.
Yeah.
So 10.4, Bridge Green, to consider an email from a resident regarding the Greenway at Bridge Green. I believe we had a summary of the issues earlier. The Great Mead Greenway being blocked in June, and can the staff attend with secretaries to ensure that it is not blocked? Councillor Brown?
I can remember a member of the public coming in and complaining that we went around that specific greenway and cut the hedgerow back. And there were birds and mammals
Dormouse.
dead on the ground. We have then since refrained in that period of time from doing the work there, so we can't win.
I think on that one we will ask Sam to keep an eye and act accordingly as he deems to be appropriate. The second item was vehicles being used for access in Little Corner. As we've said previously, the greenways belong to Hampshire County Council, and therefore it's not for us to put in drop posts. We're not able to put in drop posts, so the resident would need to write to Hampshire County Council to request that. Worried about staff because residents that are accessing the greenways in vehicles are quite often aggressive. That's one of the reasons why we have asked our ground staff to wear body-worn cameras, and therefore we will have evidence of that. And there are reporting procedures which the ground staff know to use, and any acts of aggression will be reported to the police. I think the fourth item was underground cables should be deeper. Unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing the parish council can do about that. That would be down to the developer in the first place, who would have had to have complied with building regulations and utility regulations at the time of build. So I believe that that would be for Scottish and Southern Energy at this point. Francis, are you okay to draft a reply to the resident on that basis?
Yeah, I've already told her most of that, but yes, I'm
Thank you very much. 10.5 is the land behind the bungalows on Ashling Park Road. This was a request from Green Demneed, who would like to have a community garden. They've looked at various areas. They've also looked at getting an allotment. This is the area that is behind the bungalows. Thank you. So this is the area behind the bungalows.
It's the long strip down.
With the blue line running through it. It does belong to the parish council, and I thought this could be an ideal area for them to use because it's gated at either end. You can tell by the number of bungalows that it is quite a sizable piece of land. There are a couple of trees in there. However, there are also, I'm advised this evening, restricted covenants. Councillor Brown.
It's just come to me in a piece of land that is parish council owned, has good access from a road, that could be used for Demneed Greening's garden.
Where would that be?
In the meadow.
I'm not sure that's big enough for
We can take the trees down.
Green Demneed would require. Councillor Andrew.
I understand that the situation is regarding access rights for power.
It is indeed.
Company. They aren't proposing anything permanent, necessarily permanent. If we ascertain where the cables run, we could probably avoid that with their raised beds. We only have the covenant for power cables, etc., is that should there be a problem, access has to be given to the power company to dig it up and fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a risk they would probably be prepared to take.
Francis.
If I can actually read you what the title deeds say. The power company, the blue line, that blue check line is the land that the power cables are under. So it's a majority of the land. And the power company has the right to inspect, maintain, repair, renew, replace, relay, supplement and remove underground electric and any necessary ducts and any other apparatus. Now the covenants on the parish council are that we will not at any time hereafter erect or construct any building, wall, fence or structure or plant any tree or shrub over the cables, nor will we permit to suffer to be done anything whereby the cover of soil over or the support of the electric cables shall be altered, or which may interfere with or prevent the free access to the cables by the board, or render access to the cables more difficult or expensive, or which may cause damage to the cables.
They will not. That just gives them the road, we do it all the time. We will not just go and then dig it up. There's still come from permission. They still will work a way around it. So what they're talking about planting on it, potatoes and carrots and things, isn't anything that's...
They're talking about doing it in raised beds as well. They're not even digging the land. They want raised beds for accessibility reasons. Councillor Brown?
No, I was going to say, can we ask Councillor West?
Sorry, and that line is there complete easement. We don't have an easement for a cable that wide, we tend to go 3 metres, so you've got to work an easement. So if they identify with that cable wide, which is easy enough, and just left that, they're probably what either side of it.
Okay. What kind of equipment do we need to identify exactly where the cable is?
We don't want anything, they would have to do it. Okay, I can get someone to do it, but then the owner, if something happened and the owner did you did it, they should do it. We can get a plan to show them where it runs, which is quite indicative. Depths are not legally blinding, they're guides only. Well, you put something in and someone only sets a foot of dirt on top of it, becomes a different depth or something.
Yeah.
So it's 6 inches long, becomes a different depth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can get the drawing for it, and I could get someone to cut it out or mark it out for them, but I'm understanding that that's their responsibility to make sure that they check it themselves.
Councillor Brown?
That piece of land is a very large piece of land. It's a very wide piece of land at White Wings, the end of it. I don't think they would get anywhere near filling that up.
Councillor Andrioli?
Yeah, I think we should make some effort to try and ascertain exactly where the cable runs. But I can't see that they couldn't have raised beds on either side, and the fact that the cable probably runs down the middle. The only thing I would say is that we don't necessarily want to give them all of it straight away, because if it grows over the years, they can then grow further down the thing. But I would suggest we restrict them to a proportion of it at first. But I think it's a good idea. It's a piece of land we wanted to use as a footpath and can't. So it's a piece of land that all we do at the moment is cut every so often. And this would be a use for it, and is secure.
Sorry, I was reading a note from the clerk. I don't know who was first, Councillor West or Councillor Brown. Councillor West.
All I can say is don't do nothing with it yet, because I'm aware that I have a project that involves White Wings at the moment. So it could be that we're replacing that section of cable. I don't know about looking at it.
Okay.
So that's around White Wings there, isn't it?
Yes,
there
it
is
is,
a
yeah.
substation there.
Yeah, so the schemes are all called by the name of the substation, so it could be that that part of the cable is down to be renewed. So
Maybe
we'll
I
be
think
going
there's
to
another
that
one up here somewhere as well.
So I can check it out.
Okay, so
easily, yeah.
sorry, do you have a time scale on that?
When I'm going to do the job,
Or when you could come back to us?
end of the week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll.
I'll just look in the system.
So I'm proposing that we defer this to the next meeting. Is that okay?
There's more than enough time.
Okay. So I propose that we defer to the next meeting. All agreed? Thank you. 11.1 is trees at Cottage Close. To consider the request to carry out works to an oak tree on the footpath to the rear of Cottage Close. Sam hasn't identified this as being one on his list. Photograph for you, thank you. The tree is a TPO tree, I should make sure everybody is aware of. Francis.
And I would just point out these photos were actually taken November 23, so it has grown a bit since then. But even if it's over the fence, it's not yet anywhere near the house.
I'm slightly confused. Why does it need work to do it?
The resident keeps writing in and asking us to do works. And I keep saying no. So I thought I'd come here and get you to say no.
I'm not a tree expert, but that's not anywhere near the size of trees that we normally undertake works to a TPO tree on. Can I suggest that we say that we do not wish work to be undertaken, but if the resident wishes to apply to Winchester for work on a TPO tree? Councillor Brown?
This would have been in our tree survey, won't it? This tree. Did it? It clearly didn't say that it needed any work in the tree survey.
Tree survey is 22
Right, so we're due another one.
this year at some point. But I mean, it has been pruned back in the meantime because we maintain all our trees, so it has been pruned back to the boundary. But there's no specific works required to it.
Councillor Andreoli?
Well, whenever a resident asks us to deal with a tree which we don't think needs doing, we normally say to them, well, if they wish to apply for it and pay for any work that they want done, then we won't necessarily stand in their way.
But the work has to be done by our tree surgeon.
Yeah, but it
not
needs
theirs.
to be at their expense because
Yes.
we don't believe it needs to do. So I would suggest that's what we do.
If that's your proposal, I'm happy to second that.
Yeah.
Can I have a show of hands, please? And against? Thank you. Item 12 is the play areas biannual inspections. To consider an email received from Winchester City Council regarding playground inspections by the Playground Inspection Company. So this is an email from Winchester who have provided a quote. This is the company that we used to use, but they advised us that they would not undertake work at height, and therefore we would need to get a separate company to do the assessments on the equipment that's over a certain height, because this company wouldn't do them. They are very slightly cheaper than our current supplier, but our current supplier does do the work on the equipment that's at height. Councillor Brown.
Can I ask Frances what she thinks on, you deal with them, with the, or you see the inspections come in. Is it a better inspection we get from the ones we use now?
They're pretty much identical, and the difference in price is £41.50p. But Rosper do at least do them at height. And we have two pieces of equipment that are over 2 metres.
Councillor Andreoli.
Councillor Brown was first, Chair.
I'm sorry, I was looking in your direction, so I didn't see his hand go up.
I propose we stick with our current inspectors.
Councillor Brown, sorry.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So we have a proposal, and that has been seconded. Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Item 12.2, replacement equipment for the barn play area. To consider a quote received from House for the replacement and installation of a new basket swing. To consider and determine action. Frances.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Sam on this one, as he's not here. We were offered just to buy the part, or just to buy the part and fitting. Sam has expressed a preference to have them do the fitting as well, because the piece of equipment is old and there are new fixtures to go into the top. And he is concerned that if our guys do it and it goes wrong, then the cost of the equipment and any insurance claim is going to be a problem.
That's
So-
very sensible.
so he would suggest that we go with the installation as well.
I propose that we go with the installation as recommended by our head groundsman.
Yeah.
Seconded by Councillor Andreoli. Show of hands, please.
Gary was going to say
Oh,
something.
sorry.
I was going to ask what's the difference in cost between this, because this is only Repairing part of it against a new one.
£590. Sufficient charge.
No, as in, this is to repair the one we've got, and how much is a completely
Probably
new
new
piece
one,
of
because
equipment.
this is just remove old more damaged parts. We won't trade the bits that
This-
are already in there, won't wear them.
This is replacing the whole of the basket seat and the fixtures that put it into the metal frame at the top. So it's basically taking out the existing seat, replacing it and the fixtures. To buy a new one, we'd have to put in the new arc,
So that,
And
that
cemented
part
in the
will
ground.
be
Quoted
okay.
for that.
and we haven't had a quote
No.
for that. But
No,
I would
so
imagine
part
that
will
we're
be
looking for six.
Yeah, that
probably
part's
6,000.
okay.
Yes.
Councillor Andreoli?
I would assume that Hags would say we can't do this if the arch wasn't
Yeah,
up to
they did do
scratch,
fittings for the...
because they wouldn't offer to fit it to something that's about 40 bits.
I don't assume anything.
Councillor Brown?
It's all the more reason to go with Sam's thing of that they fit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those in favour that we go with Hags actually fitting it? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 12.3, insurance for installation costs. To consider the response received from Zurich regarding insuring against the installation costs for replacement of equipment under warranty and guarantee. To consider and determine action. So our playground equipment is insured to the value of £562,197.86 in total. That provides coverage for the actual replacement of the equipment and any additional installation costs required. That is, however, provided that we have accounted for installation fees within that figure. In the event that there are outstanding guarantees, they would expect us to these to take priority before the insurance. So we use a guarantee rather than claiming on the insurance, which we do in any case. In particular, type of damage means that the guarantees are not applicable, then the insurance will continue to react, provided, of course, that it is not in an excluded clause. Should you require any further assistance, please do get in contact. So what are they actually asking us for? Francis?
Basically, I had a look at this and I had a look, discussed it with Jenny as well. Basically, what they're saying is that we would have to increase that figure of 562 to cover the potential installation costs of replacing bits that are covered by guarantee. So, for example,
Okay, yeah.
so we'd have to increase that sum to cover what we thought the installation costs might be.
Yeah.
And then they would probably increase our premium because we've increased the cost.
So, for example, the part that was worn out, or it's still within warranty, but it was broken, and they said they would replace it, but they wouldn't cover the installation cost.
Yes.
Okay.
But it would mean that we would have to try and work out
What the
what
installation,
installation
cost would
costs are of every single bit of equipment that's still under guarantee,
be. How long is a piece of string?
which would include Hatchmore.
What's the RFO's recommendation that we just continue with the insurance at that level? Thoughts much? So I propose that we take the RFO's recommendation that we continue with the insurance value at £562,197.86. Show of hands, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. Item 13.1 incidents. To receive any other reports of incidents at amenities managed facilities.
I'm not actually aware of any.
Thank you. Item 14, social media. To consider what content could be added to the council's social media output. Any suggestions? Councillor West.
Is it worth putting something on the lines that we own lots of pieces of land and it is a whole fee, not to sell or pass on? For the whole community now.
Councillor Brown.
I think that's still poking the bear a little bit.
Any other suggestions? Councillor Brown.
Seeing as we're coming into bird nesting season, that we put something in there about the fact that ground staff can't do work in bird nesting season.
Okay. We could also put the fact that they've completed the works on trees for this year. Or works on hedge cutting, it was, wasn't it? Hedge cutting. Okay, thank you. And any matters for the next agenda? Okay, you can always ask the clerk to add them to the next agenda should anything crop up during the interim period. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh my goodness, it's going to hold out much longer.